Welcome to the Integumentary system. In this lesson, we'll discuss some of the numerous diseases and the proper care of the largest organ of the body. So keep in mind that we're referring to one organ during this lesson. There are huge numbers of microorganisms. The total microbial cell count in and out of our bodies is similar in the number of human cells that make up our bodies. After the gut, there are more microorganisms in the skin than anywhere else in the body. The bacterial species are by far the most numerous. However, fungi, virus, and mites are also found in the skin of normal, healthy humans. So every day we have a plethora of things that are eating our dead cells on our skin. And many people don't think about mites, but there are numerous mites in every bed across our country. Some of the names of these bacteria that reside on our epidermis are Staphylococcus, Micrococcus, Dermabacteria, coronary bacteria, strange, very mythical names, but they're basically different names for different bacteria. There are various skin sites that be concerned with as well, but microbacteria are considered transient. They can be only isolated and cultured from skin samples from time to time. These are mainly gram-positive bacteria. Now what that refers to is that that's the dye that we use to stain the individual cells, so where they'll be in purple in color. And so if they're gram-positive, you're going to get a purplish color. Or you get red, and that would be gram-negative bacteria, are not considered part of the normal skin bacterium at all. So gram-positive is primarily what lives on our skin. Microorganisms are found, like I said, in various places. They're usually in dry, moist, and oily areas of our skin. So the hair is considered to be an oily platform. Dryness could be, a psoriasis area, and underneath your armpits and in the perineal area can be quite moist and comfortable places for bacteria to reside. So just a moment as we go to the next slide. This slide deals with the aging of the skin, and if we could find a pill that would correct aging, we would do it in a minute. The problem with this is that as cells begin to replicate in mitose, they fail to pass their full DNA markers onto their offspring during the apoptosis cycle, which is cellular death. They'll eventually die, and that is the process of aging. Cells begin to be less responsive every time they're replicated over and over again, losing little bits of DNA. The sun can also be a big factor in losing your elasticity in your skin, and this causes sagging and wrinkles, and it looks like the sign of aging. So it's important to understand that we need to take care of our skin, to avoid sunlight, to use creams and oils that will nourish and keep our skin moist, but yet not attract bacterium that will be harmful. So it's important that we understand skin care. One of the common disorders that we first are faced with is, especially as teenagers, we begin to realize that this thing called acne. Acne can pretty much plague us all the way for the rest of our lives, from the teenagers and on. It's common. It's a disorder of the sebaceous glands. But we were talking about the care of the skin. There's a lot of things that we can do to try to prevent acne from being so severe, like washing twice a day after sweating. Perspiration, especially when wearing a hat or helmet, can make acne worse. So wash your skin as soon as possible after sweating. Um, Use your fingertips to apply a gentle non-abrasive cleanser using a washcloth, mesh sponge, or anything else that can irritate the skin. It's called foliating or defoliating the skin. Be gentle with your skin. Use gentle products such as those that are alcohol free. A lot of times your acne medicines will have an alcohol base, and that's not the direction to go because it dries it out. Do not use products that irritate your skin. Okay, uh, scrubbing your skin can make acne worse, so you can inflame it and you just make it worse. So you want to gently wash your skin. Uh, Rinse with lukewarm water. Shampoo regularly. If you have oily hair, some people have to shampoo daily because they have a large excess of oil in their hair. Keep your hands off your face. Touching your skin just only exposes it to bacteria from wherever your hands have been. The doorknob, car doors, anything that you touch, walking up the steps, on the handrails. Stay out of the sun. Stay out of the sun. Stay out of the sun. Now I know a good suntan looks good presently, but when you get older, it will age on you and you'll begin to have a lot of wrinkles that you just didn't think you had. And then you look back on it and you say, oh, that guy said to stay out of the sun. Yes, I would avoid the sun. The sun is a leading cause of making us look older prematurely. So keep those things in mind, and you should be able to excel in the acne field for your skin. Now, athlete's foot is a contagious fungal infection. It's an athlete's, and you find it in locker rooms, and it's basically passed on to and through the showers and flip-flops and things like that. So there's plenty of medications on the market that treats athlete's foot, and it can be it's very irritating and it causes itching. Dermatitis is a non-contagious inflammation of the skin. Poison ivy, poison oak, uh, many of your three-leaf vegetations out there, beware. They can give you this allergen, and your skin will have an allergic reaction to it. There are several uh, more disorders of the skin. There's ischemia, vitiligo, psoriasis. Ischemia is basically a rash, and dry, red, itchy, scaly rashes. Some of them can resolve by themselves. Others need treatment and creams. Uh, then you have impetigo. It's acute inflammatory contagious skin disease caused typically by staph or strep bacteria, which is a common bacteria that lives on the skin. Um, so it has to have antibiotics to treat it, like topically or topical on creams for your skin. Then psoriasis, um, there are several different types of psoriasis. Um, as it says here, it's reddish, patchy, silver white scales. There's plaque psoriasis, which is thick red patches of skin. There's pustular psoriasis. This is pustules surrounded by the red skin. Epithermic psoriasis causes patches of skin that look like severe burns, covering large portions of the body. You can imagine how uncomfortable that would be. Inversive psoriasis causes a shiny red rash in the folds of the skin. Um, the condition is commonly found in infants and young children, psoriasis, though it continues into adulthood as well. Symptoms include rashes on the face, scalp, behind the elbows, and on the neck, wrists, ankles, and legs. Rashes are very itchy and may become bumpy, change color, or thicken. In adults, rashes may cover more of the body, causing very dry skin that is permanently itchy. Ringworm is a contagious fungal infection. Um, it's on the skin. It's something like an athlete's foot, contagious, and it can usually be treated with non-prescription antifungal creams and lotions. They even have powders that can treat it as well. Then you have hives, um, Eudocarcera, which I don't know why in the world they use that word because nobody understands it. It just means hives. Uh, it's a response to irritant. The body releases chemicals such as histamine. So you can get hives from eating something you're allergic to. Um, or insect stings, chemicals that your skins are exposed to, or even an infection that starts at the epidermis. Um, uh, Even exposure to extreme heat or cold can cause you to break out in hives. Um, but most of the time, people are familiar with insect bites, and unfortunately, some of us are allergic to certain foods. Then there's boils. Now, this is ingrown hairs, many people call it. I got a hair follicle that is ingrown. It's a common layman term. Um, it's usually a Staphylococcus aureus infection, um, and is of little concern as long as it can be drained and then properly treated with some antibiotics or uh, and cover it up to keep from being exposed to any outside environment once the boil has been drained. But the thing about it is that if your lymph nodes start to swell, or if you run a fever, um, then you might want to get a doctor to take a look at it and prescribe perhaps some antibiotics for it. So those are the things to consider. But usually, many of these things can be self-treated at home. Um, I would be concerned with hives if you've never had a history of hives before, and you certainly know that you've not been exposed to any exterior irritant such as a bee sting or anything of that sort, then you might have ingested something that you might be concerned with. So we go on to the next slide. Now some more disorders are rosacea. Rosacea um, is most commonly associated with just a redness of the face or the skin. And in this case, this is a photograph of an individual's face. Um, there are four types. The erythromat langolectic rosacea causes the typical redness, visible blood vessels, and flushing. Um, then you have the ocular uh, rosacea, which causes red and irritated eyes, swollen eyelids, and symptoms that look like a sty is in your eye, in one corner of your eye. You have the papulopustular rosacea. It causes redness, swelling, and is accompanied by breakouts that look like acne. Then you have a rosacea called phimosis. Um, it's a skin that's thickened and has a bumpy texture. There are no known cure for rosacea, but the symptoms can and should be treated to keep the condition in check. Now, we have here herpes, um, and this is simplex 1, and it's basically a cold sore on your lip. It's a fluid-filled pustule, um, so it's quite common, and we get exposed through it uh, with contact with other people as we are in our teenage years. So it's a quite common event to have a cold sore or a lip, on your lip. Here we have another form of herpes. This is called simplex type 2. It's connected to the genitalia and it's sexually transmitted. Um, the thing about this particular type of herpes, then both of them can be generated to show due to stress. If an individual goes through stress, the herpes can become quite active, um, but can lie dormant for years. Is as long because the patient is not in a stressful or in high anxiety. So herpes has a relationship to our well-being. if it can pretty much be controlled due through anxieties and have moments of high stress, the herpes will become prominent and active. Now, shingles is something I can relate to. When I was a small child, we had a chickenpox convention. Uh, all the children got together who had chickenpox because the moms would have community exposures, and we would have little associations where we'd all get exposed to our chickenpox. So, needless to say, um, I broke out with chickenpox when I was young. It's a virus. It's in the hides in the basal root of the ganglia and reactivates once again under stress or being sick. So, uh, since I have had the varicella, the virus, uh, it can reactivate in me in a thing called shingles. I understand it can be quite painful. So I've been received the vaccination for this disease, and I can tell you it's not fun. The the shot is will stay with you for days. It your arm swells, it gets to where you can begin to move it again after 2 or 3 days, and then just when you think you're over it, you go back for the second shot. So it's a twofer. So I'm glad that that's behind me, and I don't want to have to take that shot again. And I don't, of course, want to go through shingles because I hear that's more painful than the shot. So um, if you have been exposed to chickenpox in your youth, I would recommend being inoculated against shingles. Uh, it would be a good idea because I understand it is far more painful and it's a very debilitating pain. It pretty much knocks you out and you're reacting always to the pain, so it's not a good thing. Kind of talking about these two items. Uh, And it's kind of like, if you think about it, the ones that we've already discussed, and uh, these are kind of like, well, they're preventable. Yes. Good hygiene will prevent both these. Um, Parasitic insects in school children, head lice, they can jump around from child to child and play. Um, and usually can be pretty much resolved by good hygiene, and there's medications over the counter to rid head lice. Ingrown nails. This is can be quite painful, and tight shoes is a cause. And I can understand that some people wanting to wear the fashionable shoes, but you should always wear shoes that fit properly. Ingrown toenails can cause quite a bit of pain and have to be dug out. So, and when they're doing that, you're going to understand your feet are a sign of is a great place for sweat and infection. So you don't want to have injuries of your toes down there where you can be infected from other hungry bacterium that wants to get into you. Um, we have fungal nail infections here, a condition in which fungus lives near, under, or around the nails. Usually in the feet, the fungal buildup causes the nails' edges to crumble away, producing white, yellowish, scaly, and flaking on the surface of the nails. Um, this can be treated with creams, and some people, just by exposing themselves to the sunlight and walking around, can alleviate fungal infections of the feet and toes. Exposure to the UV rays has had some comfort in that. Now, warts, the common raised bumps on the skin of warts, it's caused by the human papillary virus, which has become a quite well advertised virus of late. You can see it on TV commercials advertising that teenagers and young adolescent children should be vaccinated against the human papillarium virus. Um, I would highly recommend that they do get this immunization because it could prevent some forms of cancer in the future. On this slide, we have various types of skin cancers. basal. The basal cell is found at the bottom of the epidermis, and new skin cells are produced, and they are pushed up the older cells toward the skin surface, where the old cells die and are sloughed off. Then you have squamous cells. They're thin, flat cells that make up the epidermis, or the outermost layer of the skin, um, and are perhaps the most common of carcinomas. Uh, Basal cell and squamous cell carcinomas are highly curable, but can be disfiguring and costly to treat. Uh, Melanoma, the third most common skin cell, the malignant melanoma, is more dangerous and causes the most deaths. The majority of causes of these three types of skin cancer are caused by overexposure to UV light. So avoiding the sun would be a very good thing to do. Most UV rays that reach the surface of the earth are UV alpha rays. They can reach deep into the human skin and damage connective tissue and cause and irritate and disrupt the DNA of the skin. Then you have ultraviolet beta cells, or beta rays. They're absorbed by the ozone layer, so fewer of them reach the Earth's surface compared to the UV alpha rays. And UV beta rays, which help produce vitamin D in the skin, don't reach as far into the skin as the UV alpha rays, but they can still cause sunburn and damage the DNA. Then you have UV Charlie rays. They're very dangerous, but they are absorbed completely by the ozone layer and do not reach the Earth's surface. Um, as you know, there's been numerous reports of damage to the ozone layer, so there's something to consider about the UV Charlie rays. So sun exposure and avoiding it would be a very good thing. In this, I'm going to use my lab partner here to illustrate the rule of nines um, in identifying the surface area of body that has been burnt. The head is 9% of the body, right here, just the head part, right there, little head. And then you have the front and back of each arm and hand is 9%. There's the hand and the little paw, front and back and the front. And then you have the chest is 9%, and the back, the upper part of the back, right where my hand's at, is another 9%. So if you got the whole top part of the torso area done, it's a total of 18. Um, then you have the upper back and the lower back, uh, which is the lower back here, that's 9. And the lower abdominal area, the tummy, right here, that's 9. So that whole area, front and back, is 18. And then you have the other legs. The legs are worth 18 apiece. So the genitalia area is only worth 1%. So as you can see, my lab partner, can say now bye, say bye, and we'll go on to first, second, and third degree burns. The first degree burn is distinguished by the fact of it being very painful, red and swelling. As you could see the area be red and swelling and painful. There may or may not be a surface area or a penetration of the skin. The skin may even seem to be intact because it's superficial. It's right on top. The second degree, there's going to be a penetration into the epidermis, and it is not painful. You don't feel it because the nerves have been destroyed, and but it's blistering areas and usually turns white in color with a blister over the top. Um, and this is a damage to the skin. So and then you have third degree. Now third degree is also not painful, but it's black in the skin. It's a penetration and be all the way down into the muscle and into the bone, and so it's a deep burn. All three of these can be very important to maintain a sterile environment and to keep them in a clean area, because usually burns uh, can come secondary to infection, and it's the infection that usually causes the worst havoc. Um, so we'll go on to the next. Um, in the previous slides, we discussed some of these signs and symptoms of the skins. As you can see, the first one here is epithermia, which is redness, which is a sign of an irritant or allergy, which we discuss the numerous different types of skin irritations you can have. Now, cyanosis can be an indication of lack of oxygen. Uh, Either you're not breathing the proper amounts of oxygen, or you have a lung deficit, or your heart is the circulatory system could be impaired as well. And you're flush or blue in the face. Um, it immediately means that you're having a lack of oxygenation reaching the capillaries of your skin. The third one here is a jaundice. Jaundice is a waste product of red blood cells as they break down, and the liver is unable to clear them, and that's the yellowish tint that's left in the skin. Um, what usually occurs, this is quite common in newborns. Usually occurs 3 to 4 days after birth, and the red blood cells are being reflourished by the baby's own cell-making mechanisms, and it just cannot keep up. The liver cannot keep up with ridding the dead cells from the body. So it's treated with a phototherapy. Now, this phototherapy is not like regular sunlight. Many people think that it is, and to a degree that I understand the rays can be available, but it's mostly done with a lamp. And what this photo process does is it oxygenates, it provides oxygen into the blood again, and this allows it to be easily dissolved, the waste material to become dissolved um, in water, and this allows the liver to rid the waste material and resolve the jaundice appearance. Now, jaundice is associated with the liver, so babies are not the only ones that could have a jaundice problem. Anytime someone takes excess medication, or many individuals who drink excessive amounts of alcohol are jaundice in appearance, it's because they're experiencing liver failure and they're unable to process and filter out the dead blood cells that have occurred in their body. Then you have the pallora or capillaries constriction. It's a decrease in blood cells, anemia, and is usually caused by stress. Now, we've heard about the fright and flight response. I don't know if you've met, perhaps you haven't, but we're innate as living organisms in a fright flight response. It's a natural defense mechanism that we have. It heightens our senses, and what this does is it closes down some of the capillary to our skin, which getting ready to receive stress and basically fright and flight, run or fight. So um, once again, it's a sign of stress that occurs. And anemia is another one. A nutrition-driven anemics. Uh, this is a lack of red blood cells in the body to make us look flush. So it's important that we watch our nutrients and we eat well, and that we avoid stress whenever possible. I like to always lead the students with resource material that they can have opportunities to attain to. And through your Blackboard, you have a prompt that says faculty availability. That prompt will give you the information on how to contact your primary instructor and their office hours and what times and the preferred ways that they would desire to communicate with you. Then you have a link to your book. Um, this is currently done in Cengage, and what you can do with that link is that you can search your book for keywords, and that's also helpful as well. Uh, we have the UMA library. I cannot say enough about the UMA library. The UMA library has textbooks, lectures, journals, videos, illustrations, numerous, a plethora of information. It's a library, and it's online, and it's available to you. I would highly recommend is using that as a great resource material for learning any additional information you desire. Uh, with that being said, I wish you all the best and in your learning. And once again, it's been a pleasure to be your instructor.